And today, more on the narrative that we are all in this together and that normal people like me get coronavirus. Today we've learned that Boris Johnson has coronavirus, even if I do believe it, which you never know. I think it's more of the same. More of the same, where it just fits a narrative. It could be true, and it also fits a narrative at the same time. He also wants to send a signal out to all the banksters who he still has to do a little bit of jiggery pokery on their behalf, just to let you know I'm still in charge, in control, from number 11 upstairs, pulling the levers, yanking the chains. You know, it's just I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. What I want to see is, I want to see them publicly suffering, and I mean, not for any pleasure purposes, just to know it's real. Not like I just want to see them suffer. Of course, inherently, I just do not trust politicians. I don't trust any figureheads, anyone in power, anyone who has more power than their own life. Within reason, of course. I mean, there's leadership, I understand that, but I just don't like any. Oh, you know, the simple fact that everyone who rules the UK, everyone who is a politician in the UK, has gone to either Eton or Harrow. Those are the only two schools in the whole of Britain that you've gone to if you lead the UK. If you're, regardless of whether you're born in the USA like Winston Churchill or Boris Johnson were, you went to those two schools, Harrow or Eton. That itself tells you the whole British system's rigged. Never mind the US system, where I think pretty much everyone's been Ivy League. They've been Ivy League. So, what now is, well, as I say, he's asserting the fact that he's still in control, and stressing the words that he speaks as he talks like this. And you'll find that all those Eton boys and Harrow boys talk like that, because I've met a few and I still know a few. It's just I don't know. The intonation doesn't come with Queen's English. It comes from just I don't know, pompous arrogance. Because I know a couple that don't speak like that. The accent's still there, of course, but the intonations aren't the same. So what does it really mean? I'm not going to hang on that topic of the fact that we've got a little boys club that are always in charge of all these countries all the time, and I'm pretty sure it'll be the same everywhere. No matter what country you go to, there'll be a little elite school somewhere where all the club is from, and the sons of the clubs, the nepotism circles, you know. Hope the microphone's not too windy. I'm going to go to a more sheltered place in a second. Anyway, it's been enjoyable being at home, I will say that. But then again, I'm always at home. So my life's still enjoyable as it was before. If you don't like spending time at home, this is a time to really assess your life and say, am I living a life that I enjoy? And if not, why not? What is it that's making my home life a place that I get repulsed by? You know, I want to go somewhere else. I want to be in someone else's company. Because your home should be where the heart is. It should be where you feel good. So, other things about this virus that are weird. I would really like to get off this topic actually, but I'm just going to save a few more things. So the whole strain thing, right? Let's call it strain theory, like string theory, be a play on words. So today the question was actually asked on live news. Thank fuck someone asked it finally. Was, are there multiple strains of the virus? And it looks so. Now, if there are multiple strains of the virus, that would mean, and they're all geographically located in different areas. I'm sorry to say, for these people talking about the protein argument, where it looks like it's proven that it's not a engineered disease. Well, what's the chances of a 1 in a billion type of virus? Because there's probably billions out there, you think about it. And then you have the linear time. What's the chances of those two similar viruses popping up in two different places in the world? One's from a bat. Where did the fuck the other one come from? When it happens to come at the same time, what's the chance of these different strains popping up at the same time? Again, it all points towards something that is, whether an engineered virus or not, or a collection of viruses that have been, let's say, allowed to propagate and pass themselves on between species in a lab. So that's the thing, see, engineering doesn't have to be, it can be passive engineering, you know what I mean? Like, instead of engineering a new breed of dog by changing its DNA strands, you can just selectively breed and come up with every breed of dog that we have. There's all selective breeding, right? Well, it could also be selective breeding when it comes to viruses. And when they get deployed for the purpose of an agenda, such as, for example, and this is the area that I want to move into now, such as into an area where you have to print so much money that you then come along, even if a country like America, and give a universal basic income, which no one starts to moan about and say, oh, it's socialist, because they're receiving money. But especially the thing that no one moans about is the helicopter money to a whole new level that is going towards these corporations. Trillions of dollars versus, let's say, $500 billion versus trillions. And not just that, that money is used to pump up the value of the fiat currency while the stocks crash. And these people with this disproportionate amount of fiat currency getting gifted to them, like was in 2008, because they know what annoyed people in 2008 back in the UK and America especially was, why did they bail out the banks and not the people? Well, now they're bailing out the people just a tiny little bit. Here you go, peasants. And they're bailing out the banks to a much, not banks, they're bailing out all institutions, corporations to a much larger extent, so they can buy back their shares and effectively have more control of tangible assets. Again, this is the transfer of wealth that happens every single cycle. And I think this transfer of wealth, well, if they're giving you a few $1,000s to make you think, oh, aren't they a benevolent government giving me what I want so I can buy emergency supplies that I only need to buy because they've released this bioweapon in the first place. Or most likely, just again, theory, but it's a pretty plausible one given what we know. I'm going to paste another video at the bottom of this once I finish. It's quite a long one. Stick with it, go through it. It's a video that's over 10 years old, and it talks of a lot of these things happening. So these are the ones I put a lot of credibility towards when you're talking 10 years ago, and people in these circles who we are having effectively whistleblowers. Now, being a whistleblower in the UK myself years ago, I know what it's like to try step out in a government organisation and talk about anything there. You just know that they're going to take that money and assassinate you with public money, or you're going to have to spend your own. So I know how scared people get. Anyway, I won't get into that. You watch the video. I'll put it down there. But it seems a little bit too convenient. Here we are in a situation now where the remaining capital that's not in the hands of the, let's say, the elite 1% of this world, and we know it's a lot less than 1%, but just for argument's sake, let's say 1%, where they have an incredible overrepresentation of capital in this world. Well, it will only take one more kick, one more cycle, and this is it happening right now, by the way, well, I think, where everyone's spending their, in New Zealand, their $7,000 on whatever it is. And some people might buy, oh bro, I got a new V8, bro. Yeah. Oh, I got a bike, eh? Yeah, it's a meat, it's a Kawasaki or something, 750 something, yeah. Oh, boy, get the bread. You know, people having barbecues down the beach. I can imagine what it's all going to look like, right? Everyone thinking times couldn't be so good. More distraction away from what's really happening, and that is bankster fuckheads taking all the real wealth. And a few years later, no one will even realise when their compound that they live in Auckland, that's owned by some big corporation, has hiked its rents up to a rate where no one can afford, and no one owns shit because they had to sell a while ago during the last collapse. You know, they had to sell what they had, or they lost their place, they lost their mortgage, whatever it might be, because that's what happens every single cycle. And it means that all that, let's say I own 20% of my house and I lose my house, boom, they get that 20% of seed capital that I put into that house. This is how the wealth transfer works every single time. Okay, so it'll be no different this time, and we're all just sitting there watching it happen. Now, one thing I have learned is no matter, even if you wake people up, and again a reference back to the movie The Matrix, where the guy who betrayed the whole ship was offered the chance to return. He just wanted to go back in the Matrix and have a cool life and everything, like better life than he had before. And that, yeah, we'll give you that. We'll just run a new program. It's not like they're sacrificing anything. The same thing happens in this reality, whatever the fuck it is, right? You show people the truth. Well, I've tried to do this for years. I don't want to know. I've given up trying to show people unless they're actually asking me something about a situation. Then I'll tell them. But I won't go volunteering information, because people just look at you sideways. People just look at you like you said, "Can I stick my cock in your ear, please? I would just like to just have a bit of a moment." They look at you in that way. So there's no point trying to wake any fucker up. You got to kind of wake up yourself. You basically got to wait for people to become purple pilled before you even try red pill them with anything. And even then, when someone's at that purple pilled level, they will easily go back, take the blue pill, and go back to their lives. "Oh, well, I just want it all to be over now. I'm just sick of all this coronavirus." And then let's say next comes a few wars. Let's say you get civil war across, I don't know, Europe, America, wherever the fuck, take your pick, South America, wherever. Because that will happen as well for population control. Because I really believe Agenda 21 is a thing. It would seem quite convenient that we've got all these separate strains at the same moment in time, which almost guarantees we're dealing with a bioweapon. One that's selective, because it has to tell us that we're all in this together. And I know I keep on repeating that, but the reason why I repeat that is because I said I used that particular line before it got used by the media, because I knew they would use it. I knew it was coming. We're all in this together, and it was. And there's a couple of other ones I can't think of right now, but they're all wartime rhetoric. Now, when things are fucking predictable to a point where it's almost like you are reading through a script that you read when you were younger, but you can't quite remember the story. Like, fuck, I've seen this movie before. I'm sure I've seen this film. Hey, wait a minute. Doesn't the guy get, "Oh, you fucking ruined it for me"? Well, I'm just saying. That's what it feels like right now, what we're going through. It feels like something that's happened before. All of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. Battlestar Galactica. It's weird. That's something got people walking down here. And just during Corona, now I get people walking down here. You can never see anyone for miles. One guy miles down there, and one guy miles back here. And my dog is gone. There he is! Here he goes. Oh, he got caught on a smell. No. My dog's really old, so he gets really zoned in with smells because he's lost a lot of his hearing. Anyway, oh, there he is. He's got his frisbee too. I didn't even know he had that. Right. Getting back to it. Where was I again? Gather my thoughts. Yeah, so just give me a moment. Oh, okay, talking about that, there was something that was talking about the increase of middle-aged or actually fairly young age in the 30s, people getting Alzheimer's and stuff like that. And I thought, oh God, that's me. I forget what I'm talking about all the time. So yeah, I wonder how many things are going in the world. Like, you know, when I was living in America, the food additives that made me a lot fatter than I am now, because I'm not eating any less food over in Europe than I eat in America, but I was sure as shit was a lot heavier over there. I really do believe it's something in the high fructose corn syrup that's in every fucking thing you eat. Come on, wee man. Yeah. Anyway, God, it's not coming back to me now. Where the fuck was I? If I only could rewind the video, but then using all this software and stuff, I tell you what, I've been in IT for years and I just can't be bothered. I don't even want to show someone how to use a fucking DVD player, or the most simple, an Xbox, whatever the fuck it is. I can't be bothered with anything, with any technology anymore. I'm just fucking sick of it. I just think what it is, I remember all the hours you spend. You know, when something goes wrong on a laptop, you can spend days on it, and oh God, I've been so unproductive fixing this piece of crap. It's my friend's forest here. I've been cleaning it up halfway down. That's what they should be doing in Australia, but they haven't been doing. Anyway, I'll get back to the topic in a second because I'm pretty sure I'll remember it soon. So yeah, these different strains we have all over the world, it's not a maybe. It's like, statistically, it's like shooting an arrow. Yeah, it's like shooting an arrow into someone's eye while you're on a unicycle with egg-shaped wheels, riding over a field like that. You know, the likelihood is just zero that you're going to end up with well, in total it looks like there's 7 strains, but I don't know if some of those are previous year's strains. For example, and this is the thing, when this information comes out, the example I'm going to give you is the fact that the patent for the coronavirus is an older one, 2006 I think it was. And then there's another patent that was applied for in 2014 for a coronavirus vaccine that happened. This is the thing that does look pretty dodgy, is that it got approved in November of 2019. It makes you wonder what the similarities are, or for example, in these different strains, perhaps the reason for reinfection is that in the different strains they have, if I catch, let's just call it strain A, strain B, okay? Strain B of COVID-19, because there's other COVID ones, right? So let's say I catch strain A and I get over it. They've talked about reinfection rates, and they've also talked about immunity for up to 10 years in some medical articles, right? And there's other places on Reddit. What was the other medical one? The Lance something? I can't remember. But the medical journal. So anyway, my point is, can you catch back the same variety, or is what's been happening when they've noticed this are people catching one of the different strains? And if it indeed is different strains geographically present, then look, if there was only one virus and it got released in China, it would eventually reach the whole world, unless you did a really good job of isolating people and eradicating the virus in the country where it was, okay? So that should follow the same logic, that if there's 2, 4, 6, 7 strains out there, all those strains, regardless of whether they got released, planted, seeded, whatever it was, or mistakenly released, whatever the hell, again, mistakenly released around about the same time, even within the space of a year, would be mathematically impossible to not be on purpose. And this is why I'm going to err on the side of suspicion, because well, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? You know, there's no smoke without fire. But I really want to know is, well, it will take some time, but let's say you get the most violent strain and it gives you scarring in your lungs. Will you then get one of the weaker strains, and that could actually put you over the edge and kill you later on? And that's why, looking at this, all the stats that we have between them. Let's say, for example, the stats are between a 2% mortality rate for the mildest version, or let's say 1%, and let's say a 10% for the strongest version. If you cross them all up, it's not a case of you get an average mortality rate. Well, it could be. If the weakest one, if you have it and get rid of it, it gives you immunity towards the strongest one, then it becomes a mean or an average situation. So you might average out a mortality rate of 5%. But if it's not like that, and you can recatch it again, as some of these studies have said you can, that's more likely that what we're dealing with is actually a different strain, rather than the immunity only lasted for a few days, or there is no immunity and you just end up getting the virus again. Doesn't make sense, the way that T cells work and the way that your immunity works. So that would make me think that you could end up getting a compounding mortality rate that could be somewhere, who knows, if there's 7 strains in total, and you're dealing with SARS and MERS and everything as well, you can end up getting something where you actually have a situation that gives us above 10% to 20% global mortality rate once they all continually do the rounds. And you've almost got to give up. It's either shut the world down, which could be another agenda, or it could be, I mean, I always think to myself, when something happens on purpose, it means it happened on purpose because of an agenda. And usually agendas aren't simple, they're usually very complicated, quite complex, well thought out by a bunch of smart people in a room. Oh, it's a conspiracy. But you know, I'm not going to shy away from saying that, just because I don't want to have ridicule, you ridicule point, tinfoil. Look, you know that guy who wrote that extremely, like I said the other day, the guy that wrote that amazing novel, or the guy that wrote that study, and everything was every scientist in the world says that let's say it's Tesla, and he wrote this new book. I'll tell you what, he's wrote a book on inventions and he's shown us how to get free power. Oh yeah, but the thing is, do you really want to read that book that shows you how to get free power? Because I heard that, I heard that he likes to jack off in front of his cleaner. Yeah, and for that reason I don't want to read the book. This is what we're dealing with sometimes, in this ridiculous reality that we live in. When you do stumble upon the truth, people want to go back to their own. Just let me go back to my own life. I remember last year when I used to basically struggle to make ends meet and complain about my rent, and then pay my landlord money I could hardly afford. I just have enough money left to buy a tiny little bit of weed and a 6-pack. Yeah, well, I want to go back to that life, man. It's better than this because this is a bit more uncomfortable than that. Just a little bit more uncomfortable. Some people, their expectations are so fucking low of life. And it's amazing because many of the people that I've met like this across my life, they've seen me in situations where I by choice, are living in my car. Right? By choice. And why? Because I've been I can't find a place for my dog. Well, why don't you just rehome your dog? Fuck you, you piece of shit. I will not rehome my dog. I'm tougher than that, you know what I mean? And not just that, or, oh yeah, I found a few places, but they're complete fucking shitholes. No, I refuse to live in a shithole. So, example, I lived in Clapham North in London, in a shithole when I first got there. My brother Paul. Crappy area it was. It's expensive now, but it's still a shithole. And then I've also lived in Richmond for less money than what I used to pay there. And less money than what I paid in other shit parts of London that I lived in at certain points in my life. So I got to the point where I thought, I lived in Bayswater, great area. I learned, you know what, you treat yourself. Live where makes you feel good. I live next to Hyde Park, excellent, that makes me feel good. I'll live there. You're paying 10% more there, Craig. Yeah, but I'm saving more than that 10% on the fact that I don't have to buy a tube ticket and be surrounded by a bunch of peasants on the tube. So I'm getting quality of life back. I'm closer to work, therefore I'm getting my time. You do all the calculations and I'm up. And you'll find most times people don't bother working that sort of thing out. Or for example, by staying in my car for 3 weeks, I now live in I didn't jump on that first shithole that I could have moved into, and now I'm living in a really good place. And that's what I mean. It's, well, what I'm talking about, of course, is delayed gratification. And it's the single thing that separates children from adults and animals from human beings. And unfortunately, it's the thing that separates most humans from other humans who choose to live like quislings, like serfs. Oh, wouldn't it be good? Oh, look at that. Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky doing those things that we could do fucking easily if we put our head together and just did them. Most people don't realize they live a shit life by choice. And again, I could live on the street and be happier than some people who have everything that they thought they wanted. I meet people all the time, different countries, who, oh yeah man, you've got it so good though. You can go, yeah, I've got the wife and kids here, but yeah, don't you love being a family man? And I'm not taking a hit at people who are family men, right? What I'm saying is, how did you architect your fucking life so badly? If you wanted kids, plan and have it properly. Don't rush in and go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I like her. Oh, she likes me. She's looking back at me. Oh yeah, I better get together. Hey, you want to go out with me? Oh. To be honest with you, I want to start a new series on social dynamics and I suppose amateur psychology is probably the best way to put it. Things that we do, things that we did, things that you do at certain ages that are quite common, and lessons that we don't learn, lessons that we do but we learn the hard way. I want to do something about that. But yeah, these guys, I just want to get her pregnant straight away so I can trap her, and then later on tell everyone like, oh yeah man, yeah, she got pregnant. Oh mate, you know, what can I say, mate? Oh, it's just ridiculous, as if it wasn't on purpose. Lots of men trap women, lots of women trap men, or we call them sperm robbers. Me and my brother call it sperm robber. Had a lot of those when I was younger. I was actually quite paranoid when I was younger that chicks would try, because the things that some chicks try, you come back in the room and they're up with their legs against the fucking wall, trying to, what's going on here? Thank God I only hoiked in your back. Anyway, I won't go down that path. But my point basically is that the architect, they didn't plan. The stupid man built his house upon the sand, right? They basically wanted something so bad, they rushed towards it before setting the foundations. Like, oh, as a girl, she likes me. Oh, I'm kind of attracted to her. Now you are. You know, let's say it's the first time they've been in lust in their life. So they don't know anything to compare it against. They just know this feeling that it burns really, really deep in my heart dick. And it's just something special. And it'll never go away until 6 months later, next thing. And then next thing they're living in their own personal hell that they've effectively architected. By failure to architect their life, they've essentially architected themselves a shit existence of their own making. Because at the end of the day, if you don't bother going around your forest and chopping down a bunch of timber properly, you just make a little mud hut here, well, you've architected yourself a little mud hut, haven't you? That's what you've done. So people do this in life, and then that misery leads on to the misery of their kids. Dad's such a miserable fuck, he's always grumpy, he's out in the shed all the time, doesn't want to come in the house because he can't stand mum. Whatever it is, these are all interactions, these are all vibe interactions, you know. I think about my dad, he was a fucking abusive, grumpy fucker when I was a kid, you know what I mean? It was really bad, it's really, really bad. And a lot of that was down to a series of things. It's like, I mean, he can be a really cool guy, and my mum can be the most awesome woman in the world, but she can also be a lazy pain in the ass, and he can also be a real schadenfreude kind of guy, like kind of wants the worst for you in some ways, but but will always help you out of a bind as long as you're really in a bind. But if you're doing really, really well, don't want to have him do too well, you know. And you learn these psychological misgivings about some people, and even if they are your family, you've got to be honest about them. But if you strive towards the truth in life, and that's why I do that in everything I do. Live a life that's honest for me, even if it's simple. I'd rather live a simple life and be an honest one than living the complex lives that I've had in the past that are just, you know, rushing around city mode, looking like a city guy, acting like a city guy, having the heart rate of a my friend left his leash here, having the heart rate of a hamster. You know what I mean? It's not a way to live. Hey Rumble, 1 second. Hey Rumble, I've got a shout in his ear because he can't hear. Find your frisbee. Just he leaves stuff behind, you know. Yeah, so just to carry on this point, when you get yourself kind of balanced, I'm not saying I'm any yogi or anything like that, that's sitting there meditating on a mountaintop to get my balance and my chi right, but if you're a happier person, you find yourself not internally nagging. I know I sound like I'm negative, but I'm actually quite a happy guy. I'm just very cynical, and it makes me happy to be cynical. I don't like to make people feel bad and point at people and say, look at him, look at Farty. That's not what I'm like. But I like to point out situations where someone is a horrible piece of shit, because I don't run from evil, right? Anyway, if you create that kind of environment which starts with you, the people that are around you, you don't accept anything other than people who are like you, or when it's people who are younger, you mentor them to a situation that they're kind of like you. I don't mean by personality, because everyone's unique, but I'm talking about by the understanding of their responsibility as a human being. Your responsibility is do the best for you. Look after yourself first, because you can't be good to anyone else until you're good to yourself. Next thing is, don't negatively affect someone else's life. If you're going to do that, fuck off and leave them alone. You're either there to make someone's life better, or leave them. Don't hinder them. It says that in the British passport. The bearer shall not be hindered. But somehow we get hindered all the time by the system. I think there's a lot of contradictions in this world, and that's definitely one of them. So, what could be? Anyway, just to finish off that topic. I think the reason there's so much mental problems in the world today, emotional problems, mental problems, is because of how we're living in cities, what we're striving for, what we see as worthwhile goals that are actually shit. And I've learned this myself, because I used to strive towards, I've got to get that car, I've got to get that bike, I've got to get that, you know, I've got to live here in this whatever it is place. Instead of just looking for, right, let me find a place I feel happy. All right, cool, let's try to get a place here. And if I don't, then fine. You know, put less pressure on yourself. Take life less seriously, but still be a serious person, of course. Have a laugh. Know when to have a laugh. Don't have a laugh at someone else's expense, you know. All these little things. Just basically, don't be a cunt, you know. And it's quite a simple commandment. Don't be a cunt. Not like Jim Jeffries said, try not to be a cunt. Just don't be one. You know when you're being one. Just don't. And if you find yourself doing it, oh, nah, I was a bit of a cunt today. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to not do that next time. And then if everyone did that, we wouldn't require these complex legal texts to ensnare us, to entrap good people, and to vindicate evil people, which is what law books are all about. So that you can find those loopholes to free your client who blatantly murdered someone or whatever it might be. I know I've gone on a bit of a track on this one, but it started with the COVID virus and it's going to end with the COVID virus. I don't know what's up. I just know that something is wrong, something's not right. It could be something extremely nefarious, to the level of wiping out, like the Agenda 21 says, and the Georgia Guidestones say, 7 billion people, so there's only 500 million people left in the world. Or it could be just an agenda to steal the rest of the capital. It could be an agenda to, along with that, once the capital's all stolen, that we find out that all of our governments, that all these situations were the same as in every individual country, where you have Catholic, Protestant, you have Rangers, Celtic Football Club against each other. You know, the The segmentation of society, black and white. It could be like that, but on a global scale, right? How do we make these people fight for, okay, let's give this guy this country, right? So countries you get, that's the division. Because really your community is all that should have mattered in this world. Go places, the world would have been so much more exciting if you could still have it mapped out and know that where you're going on the globe. But if it didn't have these countries, imagine there's no countries. That was such a cringe fest watching that fucking video of super nefarious, super narcissistic movie stars and all sorts of stuff who they're just crying out for attention. They can't get it, so they just, oh god, cringe. Anyway, getting back to my point. Imagine how exciting it would be. It'd be like living in the days where you were on a boat on the high seas, charting a new course, finding, I don't know, like Star Trek on Earth, finding new frontiers. It would be a lot more interesting world, I think. People would be looking after their environment, so things that don't exist anymore, things that won't exist soon, places like the Maldives that will be fucked soon because we've just taken too much sand out of the earth, There's just so many examples of us fucking everything because we just won't integrate properly with the earth. We won't build things a different way. We have to carry on doing things the same stupid way that we already know is wrong. That's where the human race is really flawed. But yeah, if it really is this Agenda 21, that's where it could end up. It could end up to a situation where everyone's been set up for more and more people to die. And this could just be wave one to get rid of the first 10 to 20%, as I explained, could be delivered by this multi-strained virus. And as I say, I'm not going to cover the same ground over and over again. But yeah, you know what I should probably do? I should probably make an agreement with myself not to talk about this anymore, and move on to new topics of red pill effect. I really don't believe Boris Johnson. We'll see if he dies. If they die, that'll be just like basically if Tom Hanks died, that'll be because he needs to escape some upcoming case that we find out he was actually a pedo. I don't know. I'd like to think he's not. I really hope it. Look, if I can make a choice and say, is Prince Andrew a pedo? I would obviously point at everyone and say no, because then I would take away the victims. You know what I mean? That wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, if something has happened, they deserve to be punished for it, and we deserve to know the truth. And I can imagine that a lot of these people, like Boris Johnson, it's probably because he's an incompetent fucking moron. And a way to get him out of there is like, let's give him the disease. Oh, but wait a minute. Let's say it's actually true and he does have it. So he's given it to himself on purpose, just so he can be one of us. We're all in this together. If it is that, then, the chance of him not pulling through it with all the best medical help, same as Trump would have the best medical help on offer in America, very highly unlikely you're not going to make yourself through it when you've had the signs spotted early. Unlike the rest of us, we can't get tested, but they can get tested straight away. Most likely survive. But even if they do survive, or let's say the whole thing's false, but let's say it is false, we could still be told he died of it. That could be his escape excuse, changes his face, takes all the helicopter money that's incoming from the banks for pulling strings and doing all these little deals on the side, which is why he's signaling them, guys, I'm still here, I'm still in control, I can still get whatever it is, Act of Parliament number 10151B passed, that gives you rights to your private G4 security to stop people in the streets as if you're a cop. Who knows what it is, what's coming in. Things are happening, things are being architected in the background, and you'll be guaranteed they're not being architected to make your life better. And the last thing I want to say is that around the world, the other thing that it could be is that all the governments are in cahoots, as I've said before. It could be the case, and if that is the case, there's only one hope, and that is people to wake up. Because let's say there's 1% of people who are really woke in this world. I don't mean stupid woke, retarded woke. I'm talking about real red pill woke or black pill woke. If there's even just 1%, which is a lot of people, there's no point those people doing anything when they don't have control, when they don't, when they don't have, when I say control, they don't have any power. If they're unempowered and 98% of society are just a bunch of Muppet quislings who want to go along and effectively protect the you know, they have Stockholm syndrome. They want to protect the ruling elite. Then there's no point doing your little French Revolution, your global version of the French Revolution, is there? It has to be a situation like they have at France, where everyone's actually got the gumption, the audacity to go out there, and the tenacity to go out there for a solid year, standing with each other to march on the streets. Of course, this could have been to stop that. They could have probably seen that was going to spread on. But there's no point making a martyr of yourself. But what needs to happen, if we find out this stuff is true, and let's face it, with the fact that there's already multiple strains, if that becomes inconclusive, then it also becomes beyond any shadow of doubt that this was released on purpose as a bioweapon, whether it was engineered or not, right? And then that would tell you that no matter what happens, we need to sack these motherfuckers. We need to take them from their little ivory towers, and we need to put them in jail, or, you know, basically execute them, because that's what they do to us, because they've effectively committed treason, right? That's what would need to happen. And if it doesn't happen, well, why would I give up my life that's better than most people to be a martyr for people who have a lot less than me, because they don't want to, well, I don't want to give up what nothing I have in this world. And that is where the problem comes in. Because, like I was saying before, people will go back to their pathetic little blue pill life. Even if their life was just absolutely pathetic, they will still want to go back to it. They will still want to hold on to their clump of shit and expect you, yeah, go out there and give up all your life. No, because my life isn't actually shit. Even in this matrix that we're living in, mine's an okay life. I'm actually quite free. I will stand by the rest of you if you get up and actually, if I know you're going to do something, but not if I know we're all going to be going, yeah, run towards the oh, where the hell are, oh, they're all back there. Oh no, I've been singled out and handcuffs on. I'm away. You know, I think the history of Scotland is the thing that would make me shy away from that. Knowing what you know, hard working and hard fighting people are from my country, and what pathetic, traitorous weasels they also are, who will sell their countrymen out to be doled back a fraction of what's been stolen from them. You know, I'm going to leave it there. That's where I think we're heading towards. I would give it now a 70% chance on the Craigometer. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. Bye.